In this session, we are going to discuss here various aspects of the autonomic nervous system. Now, in the autonomic nervous system, there are two main divisions, as we have already discussed. One is the sympathetic, and another is parasympathetic. And as you know already, the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system, these two are actually antagonizing each other. Sympathetic nervous system, it prepares the body for a condition of flight and fright. You see, that is a kind of a condition of emergency. But the parasympathetic is that which prepares the body while the body is at rest. So, in this, especially the sympathetic nervous system or parasympathetic is called the autonomic nervous system, or the ANS we say. But in this system, one thing is quite clear, that this system, or you see, autonomic nervous system is a system that affects the visceral organs. It is a visceral system, and it is an exclusively a motor system. You can say motor system, not the voluntary but involuntary, and involuntary means the visceral organs, visceral motor system. Means visceral motor activity is being here controlled by the autonomic nervous system. This is not under your will. This is something you can say the body will adjust itself according to the situation, whether in emergency or at rest. So, two systems are actually working, and these two systems in fact will prepare the body according to the situation that is actually confronting the body. And this is related here, means when you are discussing the autonomic nervous system, means actually you are discussing the visceral motor system, means involuntary motor activity and its various implications you are discussing. Though it is connected here to the visceral sensory system also, but visceral sensory system is something which is not in direct relation with the autonomic nervous system. Autonomic nervous system academically is a purely a motor system. Though with the autonomic nerves, sensory nerves are also associated, they are running along with them, but we will not actually discuss in autonomic nervous system those visceral sensory nerves also. We can't actually discuss them here. Visceral sensory nerves, they are the part of the general sensory system. That can be discussed there, but not here. And here in autonomic nervous system, when you are actually discussing here, there are two parts here. When you discuss, for example, sympathetic nervous system or parasympathetic nervous system, you have to have here one thing quite clear, that it is different from the voluntary or somatic system. Somatic motor is the voluntary motor, you say. So, what is the big difference here? One single difference: somatic motor, or you can say somatic efferent system, from this visceral motor or visceral efferent system. This is visceral efferent system, or you can say general visceral efferent system. And the voluntary system, which is in fact controlling your skeletal muscles, it is somatic efferent system, or you can say it is general somatic efferent system. What is the single big difference here is, both of them they are using already existing central nervous system parts and the peripheral nervous system parts. But in your autonomic nervous system, one thing is different from other things here, that in your somatic system, if you see your somatic system, for example, here is the spinal cord and here is the brain. In the somatic nervous system, there is a cell body, you know, that is standing inside the central nervous system, means the spinal cord, and axons are coming outside in form of roots, nerves, etc. and they are targeting the skeletal muscles at neuromuscular junctions. No synapse here in the middle at all. Even here, if you see here in the brain, cell body is lying here, nerve is formed here, is cranial nerve this time, and affecting your skeletal muscle in your face here. Same here, means a cell body is lying inside the central nervous system, and axons are leaving them to form a part of the peripheral nervous system, and they are affecting your skeletal muscle. This is called effector organ. This is the pattern of your somatic system. But in case of autonomic nervous system, the things are different. Here, because it's a motor system, so cell body must be lying inside here, okay. Either here in a spinal cord or in the brain. Axons are now leaving. Maybe on the same nerves, okay, on the spinal nerves or on cranial nerves, obviously. But they will not target and will not reach the effector organ, and effector organ surely this time it will not be skeletal muscle, obviously. The effector organs will be smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and exocrine glands. So these green fibers actually should reach them, but they will not be able to reach them because they will not be allowed to get to these organs, smooth muscles, cardiac muscle, and exocrine glands, because they have to actually relay, will hand over their signals to another neuron here, which is in fact standing outside. So they will relay into them so that they should actually finish here. So their work has ended. Work of which neurons? The neurons whose cell body is lying inside central nervous system. Their responsibility is over. Now this is the responsibility, the further the responsibility to reach the effector organ is that of the neurons which I am actually showing you here below. Their axons will now travel, maybe on the same nerves or maybe on others, and they will now reach the effector organ. Here in case of in case of the brain, or in case of here in the spinal cord, in case of head, in case of trunk here, etc., this can reach like this here, and now they can reach, they can reach smooth muscles, they can reach the glands, they can reach the heart, similarly here also. So see, a big difference here is this. That means autonomic nervous system, which you are actually going to discuss here, it is a 2 neuron system, but the somatic system is a single neuron system. Somatic system is also, you say, it is a motor system here in this case, and autonomic system is also here a motor system, but the difference here is that somatic system is a single neuron whose the cell body is training, you see, lying inside the central nervous system, either in spinal cord or the brain, and their axons, they are running outside in form of nerves, spinal nerves or cranial nerves, until they reach the skeletal muscle at the neuromuscular junction to carry out all these things. But in case of autonomic nervous system, this thing will not happen. Here will be a different thing here. Different means it will have the 2 neurons here. The green that I am actually showing you here, and the blue which I am actually showing you in this case. But this neuron means it has 2 neurons. One neuron which is standing inside brain and spinal cord, brain or spinal cord, and another which is standing outside. When it is outside here, because I am showing you only one, which is standing outside, this will be actually collection, and the collection will be in form of ganglion. Because collection of cell bodies outside central nervous system is called the ganglion, and the similar collection, if it is present inside the central nervous system, you call it nucleus. So here it is not one, it is a many, you call it a nucleus. And outside also, they are also many. So this is called the ganglion. So that means the neuron which will be before the ganglion, this one, this is called preganglionic neurons. And the neuron which is after the ganglion, actually after the ganglion means their cell body is lying in the ganglion and their axons are running like this, they are called postganglionic neurons. Postganglionic neurons means these are the cell bodies of preganglionic neurons inside, and these in the ganglion there are the cell bodies of postganglionic neurons. And in the nerves here they are running green color, they are preganglionic fibers, and after the ganglion the fibers which are running, they are the postganglionic fibers. Means axons of the postganglionic neurons, and postganglionic neurons are situated within the ganglion, and these ganglia are present outside central nervous system, obviously because they are collections of cell bodies outside central nervous system, we call them the ganglia. Their locations have to be identified here, where they are located. Now these basic information about the autonomic nervous system which I am actually giving you right now, that applies to sympathetic as well as parasympathetic both. These are the general principles about the autonomic nervous systems, both divisions. So in your sympathetic nervous system or in your parasympathetic nervous system, we have same arrangement like we have preganglionic fibers, postganglionic fibers, preganglionic neurons, postganglionic neurons. Preganglionic they are lying in the brain or spinal cord, and postganglionic they are lying outside the central nervous system. They are part of, these are the ganglia, and these ganglia are the part of peripheral nervous system. Means in peripheral nervous system we do not have just nerve fibers, we have cell body collections also. They are the part of the peripheral nervous system. And in this, for example, when you are actually discussing your preganglionic and postganglionic neurons, so you can see that the preganglionic and the postganglionic neurons, see what is the difference here between pre and postganglionic, though both are pre and postganglionic, they are in both sympathetic and parasympathetic both. But what is the difference between pre and postganglionic themselves? You see their difference also, because I am giving you general principles about both. So when you are actually discussing your preganglionic fiber, preganglionic neuron and its fibers relaying into the postganglionic neurons and then their fibers, out of them the preganglionic they are pre and they are post. The preganglionic fibers they are myelinated, means their axons they have the myelin sheath around them, therefore they look white, that is why we call them white rami communicants. So they are white rami communicants because they have got myelin sheath around them. In contrast to that, the postganglionic fibers they are unmyelinated and they are grey. So we call them grey rami communicants because they are non-myelinated. This is one difference you are actually seeing here. Preganglionic neurons they have the cell body inside the central nervous system. Postganglionic neurons they have the cell body outside central nervous system, being a part of a peripheral nervous system in form of a ganglion. At some areas it is not forming the ganglion, it can be in some other shape here, but it will be actually in form of ganglion usually. That is why sometimes we do not call the postganglionic fibers as postganglionic, we call them postsynaptic also. This is happening, this I am giving general principles about your autonomic nervous system. This applies to your sympathetic as well as parasympathetic equally. Now as far the neurotransmitters are concerned, in the preganglionic neurons, if this is your sympathetic system for example, the preganglionic neurons they are secreting here a neurotransmitter that is acetylcholine. If it is a parasympathetic, the preganglionic neurons will have a neurotransmitter, again acetylcholine. Means in case of sympathetic or in case of parasympathetic, preganglionic neurons, they secrete acetylcholine. But as far your postganglionic neurons are concerned, in case of a parasympathetic, it is again acetylcholine. But in case of a sympathetic, the postganglionic neurons, they will secrete, means at what? At you say at the effector organ, means it is the final effector organ. Here the neurotransmitter is epinephrine and norepinephrine or adrenaline, noradrenaline. That is why sympathetic nervous system, because it is actually secreting at its postganglionic neurons at the effector organs adrenaline and noradrenaline. So, sometimes this system is called adrenergic nervous system also, adrenergic system, because at the postganglionic neurons finally it is producing secreting adrenaline and noradrenaline or epinephrine. But because it is actually in case of parasympathetic, it is secreting acetylcholine at the postganglionic neurons. That is why this system sometimes it is called as the cholinergic nervous system also, because of acetylcholine at the postganglionic neurons. But in certain cases you see that even sympathetic at its postganglionic neurons can secrete acetylcholine, but at certain areas. These are the postganglionic neurons which in fact reach your sweat glands or your erector pili muscles, which is in fact raising your hair on their ends in case of emergency, erector pili muscles. So, your sympathetic nervous system supplying or innervating your sweat glands and supplying or innervating your smooth muscles, is called erector pili muscles. At the postganglionic neurons, at that area also there is acetylcholine. That is why that is called the cholinergic sympathetic nerve endings. But this is only these areas. Otherwise, at all areas you see that you will have epinephrine and norepinephrine in case of sympathetic nervous system. These are certain differences between them now. Now, when you are discussing them, now see, then you have to actually watch it here how your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system is distributed in the body. Though it is giving two different functions, and not necessarily in all the parts of the body, in every system they are available at a time here. So, not necessarily in one system, in one organ, sympathetic system is more dominant than the parasympathetic, and other organs the parasympathetic is more dominant than the sympathetic. But this is true that at one time one system is dominant depending upon what is the condition of the body and for what you have to be prepared. So, these are certain basic principles about this autonomic nervous system which you are actually seeing. Now, discussing these, having said something about this, you have to actually watch here how your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system they are working. Now, look at this. Okay, take the parasympathetic nervous system first. Now, in the parasympathetic nervous system, again it will be preganglionic, postganglionic. In that case, you have to actually watch here four things in autonomic nervous system, either parasympathetic or sympathetic. Number one, where are their preganglionic neurons located? It will be preganglionic, number one will be preganglionic neurons, where they are located, how the preganglionic fibers they are distributed through which nerves. Fourth thing will be, where are the postganglionic neurons located? Obviously they are located in the ganglion, but where are these ganglion placed? This is number 3. Number 4 will be how the postganglionic fibers they reach their destination. Destination means smooth muscle, cardiac muscle and exocrine glands. How they reach them. As far your preganglionic neurons are concerned, in case of your parasympathetic nervous system, now our target here is the parasympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic nervous system is a system that is localized at certain areas. You see that doesn't in fact reach your surface, means on your skin and everywhere. You see that it is not going there. It will not go to your limbs, means it is localized here in your viscera, in your cavities, like the visceral areas of your head and neck, the visceral areas of your thorax, the visceral areas that you see of your abdomen and the pelvis here. It is not going to the limbs, it is not coming here to the surface, or you say skin and other areas, somatic areas. So it is localized. It is not generalized as sympathetic system is. Sympathetic system reaches everywhere. You can live without sympathetic system, but you can't live without parasympathetic system. It is essential for life. Though the sympathetic system is also essential for life, but that is essential for only when the body is when the body is facing some emergency. Fight and flight. So first of all, you consider here that the preganglionic neurons where they are present, because this is the area where from your parasympathetic activity is generated, though not controlled as such, but you see that it is generated from here. And preganglionic neurons, for this purpose, because you know that preganglionic cell bodies where they should be located. Obviously, all preganglionic cell bodies are located within the central nervous system, and postganglionic cell bodies they are located obviously outside in form of a ganglia. So this is preganglionic neurons. In case of parasympathetic nervous system, preganglionic neurons they are present in brain and obviously in the spinal cord. In brain it is present, you see, at 4 spots. See the 4 areas here. If you are looking at this brain has got if you will actually see, the brain has one thing that is called the cerebrum, and cerebrum you can say, we say it is the forebrain. Forebrain has a bigger area of cerebrum, and it has got the small hidden component inside that is called the diencephalon. And diencephalon has 2 major components, you see. One is called the thalamus and another is called the hypothalamus. And the remaining you see that is called the cerebrum. So cerebrum and diencephalon. Then you have got the midbrain, and then the hindbrain, which is the pons and the medulla oblongata. And behind the pons we have the cerebellum also, and cerebellum, pons and medulla together is called the hindbrain. So you call them hindbrain, and medulla oblongata is continuous inferiorly with the spinal cord. Altogether you call them central nervous system. In that central nervous system, there are pons, I say midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. These 3 things are together called as a single unit, you call it the brainstem. And you know that this central nervous system is connected to the nerves, is connected with the nerves, you see that, because it is the surface of the central nervous system from where the nerves are emerging in such a way that the cerebrum is giving rise to two nerves, first and second, midbrain again two nerves, third and fourth, pons next four nerves, 5, 6, 7 and 8, and medulla oblongata last four nerves, 9, 10, 11 and 12, and spinal cord already you know 31 nerves. This is on one side and similarly on other side also. So 12 pairs of cranial nerves and 31 pairs of spinal nerves, the part of the peripheral nervous system. Though this is not the only thing is in the peripheral nervous system. In peripheral nervous system we have got a lot of cell bodies also. Now when we are actually discussing here that where are our preganglionic neurons in case of our parasympathetic nervous system, I am showing you here they are located at 5 areas only. Out of these 5 areas, 4 areas are in the brain stem. One is in the midbrain, second is lying in the lower area of the pons, third is in the upper medulla, and fourth also in the upper medulla, you can say. Means if you are actually looking at here in this case, I tell you that one is lying here in the midbrain, second is lying in the pons, third is lying in the upper medulla, and fourth is also lying in the medulla, the big one. These 4 areas where the preganglionic neuron cell bodies are lying, so that's why you call them nuclei. But at the same time we have got actually not just 4 areas, we have the 5th area, that is in the spinal cord. And spinal cord, you know that there are 31 pairs of the spinal nerves are there. 31 spinal nerves emerge from the spinal cord. That's why you can say there are 31 segments of the spinal cord. Segments means that piece of spinal cord, from the sides of that is emerging its own corresponding spinal nerves pair, that is called the spinal segments. And in these spinal segments we have got the 2nd, 3rd and 4th sacral segment, S2, 3 and 4. Here there is area, this is the 5th area, you can say, combined means 3 segments continuous, not the entire say, but where it is located? It is located, if you will actually look at your spinal cord, you have got the gray matter, we have the posterior horn, anterior horn. At the same time there is a lateral horn also. This S2, 3 and 4 is the neurons group present here in the lateral horn of the gray matter of spinal cord. This one. This lateral horn of the gray matter of spinal cord here, not the entire spinal cord here, because this is motor, because I told you these are motor neurons, but they are visceral motor neurons, but they are motor neurons. They must be lying here in the anterior horn. This is actually lateral horn is a part of anterior horn, you can say. Though it contains also some part of the posterior horn also, but you say it is the anterior horn. So these are your motor neurons. Which motor neurons? Parasympathetic motor neurons. Parasympathetic neurons. Which one? Preganglionic. So preganglionic neurons are lying like this. So in that case, we told you here one neuron, one cell body collection, nucleus, parasympathetic nucleus in midbrain, one is lying in the lower pons, one in the upper medulla, and another adjacent to that big one is upper medulla also, and one is lying in the S2, 3 and 4 here. there is no other area at all as far your parasympathetic preganglionic neurons collections are concerned. These are the locations of preganglionic neurons. And these preganglionic neurons, they are present at these locations. It is located, and now you said the preganglionic fibers means axons of these neurons. Axons of these neurons, in fact, when they will come outside here, they will look for which nerves are already existing there. And because here is the first one which you know that is actually present here, this nucleus, call this nucleus, here this nucleus is the name, this nucleus name is the Edinger-Westphal nucleus. Is a very famous nucleus. It's called the Edinger-Westphal nucleus. What is this? This is the collection of the preganglionic cell bodies as far as the parasympathetic is concerned. This is the top one, the first nucleus that is present. And where their axons will be travelling through, preganglionic axons means the preganglionic fibers. The preganglionic fibers, when they come out, they will look for the nerve which is emerging from the midbrain, higher midbrain, and that is the third cranial nerve, oculomotor nerve. Means Edinger-Westphal fibers in fact will be running along with the oculomotor nerve here. And when you are actually discussing the next nerve that is actually emerging here, so next is the nucleus, and this nucleus you know that is present in the upper pons, in the lower pons. You call this nucleus as the superior salivatory nucleus. This is superior salivatory nucleus. And superior salivatory nucleus will have its axons now coming out, and they will run and will look for the nerve which is emerging from there. And this is a nerve, you know that is this nerve, this is called the facial nerve. Means this was your third cranial nerve, this is your seventh cranial nerve. Means superior salivatory is the second preganglionic cell bodies collection present in the lower pons. If we are coming to the third collection, the third collection's name is inferior salivatory nucleus. And the inferior salivatory nucleus, their fibers are now running outside here, and we are looking for a nerve, and the nerve is the ninth cranial nerve, that is the glossopharyngeal nerve. And the last nucleus which is present in the brain, in the cranial area, this nucleus is called the dorsal vagal nucleus. And this nucleus which is called the dorsal vagal nucleus, that is actually present where? That is present in the upper medulla also, and the fibers which are in fact leaving it will be running into another nerve, and that nerve is called the vagus nerve. This is the 10th nerve, 10th cranial nerve. So these are 4 among your 12 nerves which carry parasympathetic fibers. But which ones? Preganglionic parasympathetic fibers. That's why why only these 4 nerves have been selected? Because these 4 nuclei are present in those areas from where these nerves are emerging. That's why these 4 nerves are actually have been selected. If, for example, one of this nucleus, for example, there is a nucleus, for example, present in your upper pons area, maybe the preganglionic fibers would have selected actually the trigeminal nerve, because trigeminal nerve is lying in the upper pons area, but because the nucleus is not lying there, that's why the trigeminal nerve is spared. It's not having preganglionic fibers. Out of your 12 cranial nerves, these are the only 4 cranial nerves which carry parasympathetic fibers. Which ones? Preganglionic parasympathetic fibers. What is their target? Their target is to look for smooth muscles, cardiac muscles, and exocrine glands, to innervate them. to prepare them for the state of rest or the condition of the rest. In the condition of rest, whatever is required, they are actually preparing them, but the effector organs will not obey them. The reason is that because the preganglionic fibers will not reach the effectors, the postganglionic fibers will reach the effectors. This indicates that means after your preganglionic neurons collections or the nuclei within your brain, then the preganglionic fibers, they are running along with the nerves, so locate the nerves. Then you have to actually look for those ganglia into which they will have to synapse. We have seen here the 4 collections here, 5th collection is waiting here also, down in S1, N2 and 3. Their fibers are now coming out also, and these fibers are coming along with what? Along with those nerves which are emerging from there. Which one? S2, 3 and 4. But these nerves have their roots, sensory and motor roots. Okay, we run with the sensory, we run with the motor roots because these are the motor fibers. Though are visceral motor, but they are motor. Run with them. So these nerves, you see that these spinal nerves, they will join with their sensory roots to form the spinal nerves. Will they go with the spinal nerves? No, they will not go with the spinal nerves. They will immediately leave their roots and will enter into the cavity. Which cavity? You see that sacral means it will go into the pelvic cavity. And these here you will call them pelvic splanchnic nerves. They are preganglionic. Pelvic, because they haven't relayed into any ganglion. Pelvic splanchnic nerves. With a neurotransmitter, already you know that preganglionic neurotransmitter everywhere in sympathetic, parasympathetic, it is acetylcholine. So which I am actually showing you here right now. Okay, we'll bring it here on the same side. These are called pelvic splanchnic nerves. You can imagine that one nerve is the third nerve, another nerve is the third cranial nerve, another nerve is the 7th cranial nerve, facial, yet another is the 9th is glossopharyngeal, another is the vagus nerve. And then we have got 3 more here. These are called the pelvic splanchnic nerves. This is the source of preganglionic fibers in parasympathetic nervous system. Means parasympathetic nervous system partly emerges from cranial cavity and partly emerges from the sacral part of the spinal cord. That is why parasympathetic nervous system sometimes it is called craniosacral outflow also. Now through this you have actually seen, until now you have reached and you have cleared here the preganglionic cell bodies collections where they are lying in the parasympathetic system, and preganglionic fibers means their axons, how they are running and which nerves have been utilized here. Now you are actually looking and have to finalize and you have to identify here where are their postganglionic neurons cell bodies in form of a ganglia which are actually located outside the central nervous system, where they have to synapse so that their postganglionic axons should reach the effector organs. And if for example you are looking at this now, you will see that if your oculomotor nerve is bringing here preganglionic fibers, this preganglionic fibers will basically enter here into the orbit where your eyeball is located. And into the eyeball, you see, into the orbit close to the eyeball, there is a ganglion, their ganglion. Means you can say the ganglion into which the Edinger-Westphal's preganglionic fibers, they should relay. So that from this ganglion, the postganglionic fibers will go to the eyeball. Why they will go to the eyeball? Because inside the eyeball they are lying 2 very important smooth muscles which should be innervated, And smooth muscles here, in case of eyeball, one is called the ciliary muscle. This is contracted to accommodate the vision for the nearness, you see that, for accommodation for the near vision. And another is the circular muscles of the pupil or the iris, you can say, this is called the sphincter pupillae. Sphincter pupillae muscle. They both are actually supplied here by the postganglionic neurons, which are present in this ganglion, and that ganglion which is present very close to your eyeball, it is called the ciliary ganglion. This is called the ciliary ganglion. This is one distribution of your parasympathetic nervous system. In case of the top nucleus, that is the Edinger-Westphal, means preganglionic fibers are in the Edinger-Westphal. Preganglionic axons, they run with the oculomotor nerve, which relays outside in the postganglionic neurons collection, that is called the ganglion, whose name is the ciliary ganglion within the orbit. And it is the ciliary ganglion which is actually giving the nerve fibers which enter into the eyeball to supply the two smooth muscles, ciliary muscle and the sphincter pupillae muscle, to contract them. This is one part of your parasympathetic nervous system. Second part, okay, come here. Superior salivatory is the nucleus. Axons bundles are running along with your facial nerve, and in the facial nerve, these fibers will split up into the two big groups here. Because the fibers split up into two groups, they are preganglionic, and they are looking for their ganglion. Because the fibers were already split up into two groups, that is why the ganglion will be two ganglions will be utilized. One ganglion that is actually lying here at the base of the skull. So, one group will actually be synapsing inside that, means inside that ganglion, so that their postganglionic fibers will spread from that ganglion, and the second ganglion is actually present here under your mandible, beneath the mandible here, so that their postganglionic neurons will go, postganglionic fibers, they will go to some other areas. Nerve is same with the two different branches, two different groups here. So, we have two ganglia used by this nerve here. One ganglion, you know, that is lying under the mandible, that is why it is called the submandibular ganglion. And another ganglion which is lying under the base of your skull, we call it the sphenopalatine ganglion. You can call it pterygopalatine also, pterygopalatine ganglion also. Sphenopalatine ganglion. Here is submandibular ganglion. So, from submandibular ganglion and sphenopalatine ganglion, the postganglionic fibers now they are actually spreading here. Submandibular ganglion, which is giving you postganglionic neurons, which will be running along with various nerves until they will reach the salivary glands. Salivary glands, one is the submandibular gland, another is the sublingual gland. Sublingual, submandibular, salivary glands, not the parotid. And sphenopalatine ganglion or pterygopalatine ganglion is giving its postganglionic fibers to through various nerves to lacrimal glands, to nasal glands, to palatal glands, and to various glands. So, facial is actually having a wide distribution as far as your parasympathetic fibers are concerned. This was your second distribution or second distribution of your parasympathetic nervous system as far as your superior salivatory nucleus was concerned. So, superior salivatory nucleus, preganglionic neurons collection, facial nerve, preganglionic fibers distribution, two ganglia, postganglionic cell bodies collection used by this facial nerve. One is the sphenopalatine and another is a submandibular ganglia, and from there the postganglionic axons or postganglionic fibers will travel, which will reach now various glands here. Which glands? Submandibular ganglion will give innervation to your submandibular salivary gland and sublingual salivary gland, while sphenopalatine will supply various glands like nasal, palatal, lacrimal, etc. So, these two ganglia which I am actually showing you, sphenopalatine and submandibular, as well as the upper one which we have already discussed here, that is called the ciliary ganglion. They are 3 parasympathetic ganglia by now you have seen. Now come to the third collection, from where whose periganglionic fibers were present in inferior salivatory nucleus. Periganglionic axons means their fibers are running along with your glossopharyngeal nerve, and now glossopharyngeal nerve is actually looking for its ganglion, because these fibers are periganglionic. So, they are looking for its ganglion, and finally, the ganglion is found at the base of skull, where they will synapse. And where they will synapse, a ganglion is there, and that ganglion is called otic ganglion. This is the fourth and the last among your parasympathetic ganglia. This is called the otic ganglion. All these 4 parasympathetic ganglia, they are lying in your head and neck. And the otic ganglion, and from otic ganglion will start now the fibers, and they will reach your largest salivary gland, that is parotid gland. This is the distribution from your cranial outflow of your parasympathetic system as far as these 3 nerves are concerned, these 3, and these 3 nerves have used 4 ganglia, and we have 4 ganglia available here in your head region. You see, sir, what will happen with your now next cranial outflow, that is actually is present in your vagus nerve, whose cell body is preganglionic, they are lying in your dorsal vagal nucleus. Their cell bodies are lying, I tell you that vagus nerve contains almost 70 to 75% of your total parasympathetic body's parasympathetic load on a pair of vagus nerves, and surely they will be periganglionic. So, they are periganglionic, leave the skull, comes into the neck, and this is the only nerve that can reach here up to abdomen, you can say. No nerve can reach below, say no cranial nerve can actually cross the middle of your neck. Hardly middle of your neck you see glossopharyngeal can reach. No nerve can actually be running below the middle of your neck here, except the vagus, which crosses the rest of your neck, will comes into the thorax, will come up to even your half of abdomen. And vagus is actually going to distribute all these preganglionic parasympathetic fibers. Preganglionic parasympathetic fibers means their ganglia are located close to the organs, because there are a lot of ganglia will be required by the vagus, because it has got a huge number of fibers, preganglionic fibers, whose cell body is lying within your central nervous system's medulla oblongata in form of a dorsal vagal nucleus. And these fibers now they are running. And now look at the vagus now after your the organs which you have seen, and now look at the vagus. How the vagus is distributing is 4th bundle of the fibers you see after your 3 bundles. This is 4th, the big one. You see 75% of your total body's parasympathetic load is this. And you have to actually watch here how this will be. Vagus nerve now, this time 4th bundle. This is parasympathetic distribution. So, here was the vagus, dorsal vagal nucleus and medulla oblongata. Vagus nerve is bringing 75% of your total parasympathetic load, and that load will not be even a single fiber will be handed over to, or will be actually subserving your head or you say neck. All target is thorax and abdomen. And periganglionic fibers are now running along with the vagus, though vagus is containing a lot of other fibers also, but just we focus here periganglionic parasympathetic fibers. Vagus, very famous parasympathetic nerve, leaves the base of his skull, comes into the neck, continues its course through the thoracic inlet, enters into the mediastinum, and in the mediastinum it is now handing over some of its periganglionic fibers to the lungs. But you see, sir, the lungs are okay. But the lungs, why? Because in the lungs there is a bronchi, and the bronchi there are glands, bronchial glands, and we have got smooth muscles also. But they are preganglionic. We need the ganglion, but ganglion is not in ganglion. Ganglion is in form of a plexus. It is a cell body collection very closely to the hilum. And here they will relay, and from here the postganglionic fibers will spread. Similarly, there is heart also, there is cardiac plexus, and some of the preganglionic fibers of the vagus nerve parasympathetic fibers will be relaying into the cardiac plexus. So from here, okay, postganglionic fibers will go to the heart also. Why? Because cardiac muscle is there, and cardiac muscle, you know that the heart is actually being controlled by the tone of the vagus, the vagal tone. Little bit vagal tone is relaxed here, heart rate will increase. This is the break of the heart. You see that the break of the vagus nerve, which is in fact controlling the heart rate. This is called the vagal tone. And then you see that the vagus nerve is not just here giving the preganglionic fibers to this, and then the vagus nerve is giving a lot of preganglionic fibers here to your esophagus also. Because inside the esophagus there are lying postganglionic neurons collection, so that they actually been relieving, they will be receiving the preganglionic fibers from the vagus, and from there very short postganglionic fibers will emerge, and they will actually cause contraction of the smooth muscles of the esophagus. This is something in the thorax, it is actually providing its preganglionic supply, so that the postganglionic arrangement, the organ itself has the postganglionic arrangement scattered in, not in form of a ganglion, in form of a plexuses. And then the vagus will actually enter here through the diaphragm, through esophageal hiatus. And then there also it spreads in form of various fibers here. These are all preganglionic, and they will enter here into the organs, inside the walls of the organs. Inside the walls of the organs they are lying mesenteric and mesenteric plexuses, into which they will actually relay. Preganglionic fibers of the vagus are relayed like this, so that the very short postganglionic fibers in form of a plexuses will form plexuses within the walls of these viscera, stomach, duodenum, small intestine, large intestine, colon, up to your half of the colon. Half means you can say even full transverse colon, or you can write 2/3 and left 1/3 junction of the colon. Up to here the vagus will work, but it is distributing preganglionic parasympathetic fibers. It does not have its ganglion, but the plexuses are there. But whose plexuses? The plexuses are cell body collections along with their fibers within the walls of these organs, whom the preganglionic fibers of vagus are distributed, not a specific ganglion as such. So mesenteric and mesenteric plexuses, but up to which level? Up to colon level, up to the transverse colon middle, or you can say right 2/3 and left 1/3 junction, or sometimes even the entire transverse colon. You say then after transverse colon what will happen? The transverse colon, we have got descending colon, we have got pelvic colon, we have got urinary bladder, this and that, we have got pelvic organs. For this purpose I have already told you, where the vagus can't reach, you have got the last source of your parasympathetic nervous system. And that last source of parasympathetic nervous system, you already know, that is called the S2, 3 and 4. Their preganglionic fibers are coming outside in form of pelvic splanchnic nerves, but they are preganglionic. Okay, no problem, they will enter into the pelvis, and from pelvis they will spread in a lot of bundles, preganglionic bundles, until they reach the organs. Which organ? Urinary bladder. They enter inside here, so inside they are lying intramural ganglia, or you say intramural plexuses. They can enter into the various areas. So they will be actually supplying here. Where? Then up to your colon also. Which colon? Sigmoid pelvic colon, up to ascending colon also. Beyond that, it is transverse colon that has been already supplied here by the vagus nerve. So your parasympathetic nervous system actually is distributed like this. None of the fiber has gone into your upper and lower limb. Not even a single fiber has reached your skin. Even the skin of your face or anywhere, not reaching at all, targeting your glands, exocrine glands. Even your sweat glands, they are not supplied by, because the sweat glands are the glands, okay, but the glands should be supplied by them, because glands are lying in the skin and the parasympathetic nervous system doesn't reach the skin. That's why the sympathetic nervous system will supply them there. That's why the sympathetic nervous system by nature has been allowed to actually secrete acetylcholine on their nerve endings. So you can imagine that this is the parasympathetic nervous system which is localized here in the viscera, in the cavities, in the pelvic cavity, the abdominal cavity, in the thoracic cavity, yeah, even in the deeper in the visceral areas of your head and neck. So this is the distribution of your parasympathetic nervous system, and it is actually doing what? It is doing in emergency, it's in rest what is required there. In rest you see that what is required, your pupil has to be constricted here because light is not required at the time. It means extra light is not required there. It is not a state of emergency that the pupil should actually be dilated here. It should be remains in a normal, people will be there. It is constricted, you see that people will be constricted. Then you see, because you are at rest, your bronchi, smooth muscles of the bronchi, they are actually constricted here. So diameter of your bronchi will be normal. No extra air is required here. Heart rate, it should be normal, should be under control. It should not be accelerated here. It should be under control. Digestion is enhanced here. So peristaltic activity of the smooth muscles of your GIT should be more. Gland should be secreting more. Urinary bladder should actually be working more, because in the state of emergency the smooth muscles of the urinary bladder were relaxed. So the micturition should not be enhanced or should not be initiated, because this is a state of emergency. We are in a fight and flight mood here. So these works are actually be done here by the parasympathetic nervous system here. This was your class today.